I don't know why I announce my knitting plans as if I'm not going to change them multiple times before they get made, but I'm not going to stop, so it's your job to determine whether or not I am lying. Today I'm going to go over my yarn crawl acquisitions and the patterns I bought them for. Last time I just went over the yarn itself. I want to talk about the plans now, and how those plans have already changed multiple times. I am about to leave and do something else, but I wanted to film this intro before I melt. It's 93 degrees in October. Okay, bye! Oh,
I think it's just lost its shape over. Oh no.
I was filming a spider.
Okay.
I lost it.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, I'm back. Went to the Union Cemetery Fall Bazaar. 90 degrees, 93, whatever. 90 something degrees. Extremely hot. Not October weather. Ugh. It wasn't as sweaty as I expected because there was a nice breeze, so that's cool. I got a fun little. It's like an entire system of charms here with the fun bat. It has a pin and a clip, so it can be whatever. But this was by my friend Kay, who runs Twinkle Bat Designs. She also made this necklace that I wear all the time. Thanks. So, starting out with some finished objects before we get into the evolving plans for my yarn crawl acquisitions. I mentioned in my last video finishing a couple of things, so I do want to go over those in a little more detail now. There is, of course, the, in my mind, slightly infamous partition pullover, only in the sense that it took me 1,000,000 years to finish. It shouldn't have, it just, you know, sleeves. It just has sleeves, and that's its one major issue is that it has sleeves. There is a tank top version. I'm joking about sleeves being a problem, but there is a tank top version. So, or like a vest. I can't remember what it's actually called. I have already gotten a significant amount of wear out of this. I finished it kind of at the perfect time as the weather was starting to cool down. It did heat back up, but you know, I enjoyed it for the week of Fool's Fall. It is a cotton acrylic blend, so it's not too terribly hot. I could probably wear it in this warmer weather and be okay. So delighted to finally be able to wear this. I think I mentioned this when it was a work in progress, but this is made of the Hobby Hobie Friends Wheel yarn. It's cotton and acrylic. I use it all the time. I also use the Twister Solid kind of interchangeably. Still not sure that those are actually different yarns. Someone convince me, please. But this is one of those yarns. It barely matters which one. I will say I went down a size in the sleeves. I wanted a little bit more fitted than the pattern actually calls for. It has a nice drapey sleeve, which usually would be exactly what I would go for, but I want to be able to wear this under things as like to replace like a fishnet layer with something a little more in line with my current wardrobe. It's perfect. I love it. The pattern is also written extremely well. It's by James N. Watts, if I didn't say that. It's the partition pullover, James N. Watts. Very well written, very easy to understand. This was my second experiment with lace, and it did go much better. I'm sure there are errors, but I don't know where they are, and I think that's a win for me. My next finished object is actually two finished objects that I made on the weekend of Yarn Crawl. Wanted a little project to have in my bag as we were driving around. So the hat I made two of is the cat ear hat by Ugly Babies with an eye. I first made one that is too big because I didn't gauge swatch. It's still fun and cute and cozy, and I did wear it for a couple of days. Um, but I did choose to reknit it. I left this one intact, thinking maybe I would give it to a friend if I could make the ears work, if I can reinforce them somehow or stuff them, something like that. And I actually asked her about it today, and she said that yes, she wants it. So I will either figure out a way to fix the ears or I will unravel and reknit the entire thing. I did end up with exactly the right amount to make a second one, and this one fits perfectly, and the ears stand up the way I hoped. I will insert a picture of it on my head. I love it. I put it on and it immediately felt correct. I wore it to two public places without thinking about it at all. It's 20 degrees colder, this would be on my head right now. This will be a staple of the colder months for me. Another FO, um, I made a hat with the leftover Halloween yarn that I made my big cardigan out of. Had plenty of leftover yarn. So I did go ahead and make my partner a little beanie. I believe this is the basic beanie by Tin Can Knits. It's all 2x2 rib, very squishy, very stretchy, good pattern. I really like that pattern. Fits nicely. Will absolutely make again. I had to kind of guess on the brim size, so sometimes it rolls up too much and shows the inside, but not a big deal. I still have more of that yarn, so I'm very sorry to anyone who tried to purchase this yarn because it keeps selling out and I have like 1.5 skeins of it left. I'm sorry. I didn't know. So those are all of my finished objects between whenever we talked about FOs last and now. I am going to skip works in progress, except for the ones related to Yarn Crawl yarn. I have too many whips right now. I have become extremely irresponsible. I am so quick to cast on something new. It's getting out of control. I think I have 6 or 7 whips right now. Also, quick allergy update. In my yarn crawl video, I know I mentioned my allergies multiple times, and you did not see how many other times I had to cut out me talking about my allergies because I swear it was in every clip I filmed. I don't know why I thought that was so important. Anyway, I did go to an allergist and I got allergy testing. Wool or lanolin was not one of the things they tested for, but I straight up do not have environmental allergies. I am not allergic to any of the things I thought I was allergic to. Long story, I did end up using a non-superwash wool yarn on accident and was fine. And by fine, I mean the same as always, which is allergy symptoms, but they didn't get worse. So I still have no idea what's causing that. I have still only had reactions to fluffy, non-superwash wool yarn. Never superwash, never alpaca. I really don't know. I really don't know. So am I going to continue mostly avoiding wool unless it fits the like superwash kind of tightly spun, no fluffy fibers to inhale? I don't know. I have no idea. And now I feel like I'm going to sneeze. It's not going away. Let's let's talk about yarn crawl, yarn plans, how my fall knitting plans have changed. Okay, so I talked about a vest, wanting to make a vest. I talked about wanting to make a vest with this yarn specifically, and I bought two of each of these. I did. I did do that. So this is technically a finished object, but it's also not. This is the Athelian vest by Fable Knitwear. I knit it too big, like significantly too big, and that is my fault. I have sometimes a hard time with proportions, and the whole point of making my own things is being able to customize them to fit my proportions more accurately. I just messed it up this time. So I do have an entire finished object here. It also like bloomed a lot more than I was expecting with very light blocking. I didn't even pin it out. I wasn't trying to stretch it any further, but just soaking it, laying it flat to dry. The yarn did expand quite a bit. I did a gauge swatch, sort of, but I did not block it, so this is entirely my fault. I have tried to give this away because, as you saw, I ended up with exactly double the amount that I needed. That is one thing I will say about the pattern is the amount of yarn it calls for is like different in different places, at least on Ravelry. Maybe what's within the pattern is going to be the most accurate because I completely like messed up. But that means I have an entire vest and I can still make another one in the size that I actually want. So this vest is still nice. It's very soft, very comfy. It just isn't the fit that I wanted. I could still wear it. If I can find someone to give this to, that would be great. So far, no takers, and I mean for free. I would rather someone wear it than me unravel it. I am not opposed to doing sort of pointless knitting that never turns into a finished object. That doesn't really bother me, but I would still rather someone just take this off my hands. So, finished object, but not. Okay, so the next plan I have for Yarn Crawl Yarn, we talked about it a little bit, was a tank top for Denny in this Cascade Hamptons cotton and linen. I'm really glad I'm using my mic today because they're doing something outside and it's very loud. Anyway, Cascade Hamptons. It is 70% Pima cotton, 30% linen. There are actually a couple of options here. Denny wants just kind of a standard tank top, but ideally it would be something ribbed so it is a closer fit and stretchy. That is Denny's preferred fit. I was initially going to make the it's like the basic tank top, something like that, by Knit Crow Addict. I have made that before. It was actually the first garment I ever knit in just a plain black linen yarn. So I know I could do that. That would be no problem. But can I adapt it to be ribbed? Maybe? Maybe ribbed with like an I-cord edge and just use sort of the cast on numbers and shaping from that pattern. Am I confident enough to do that? I'm not 100% sure. I'm confident enough to try it and waste a bunch of time. I did find kind of the perfect pattern, exactly what I'm looking for, but it is for a different yarn weight. So either way, I'm going to have to adapt something and do some guessing, or I might keep searching. So another pattern that I'm already working on is the cotton culottes by Cat and Leni, maybe? It's Leni. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But the cotton culottes, I am using the Sandnesgarn Lean, because I love linen pants. I know this yarn is not actually a majority linen, but it feels very linen-y. It is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and only 14% linen, but it has that nice texture that I just love. So, pants. I would love to finish these in time to enjoy the last bit of warm weather, but I also kind of wear linen pants year round. I often, throughout the winter, will wear what I refer to lovingly as my stupid little linen trousers with leggings underneath. I just don't have a lot of pants that I like, and they all end up being stupid little linen trousers, the ones I do like. So maybe I will have these done in time for the warmer fall days. Maybe I wear them with leggings. It's a lot of stockinette, so I kind of expect for this to take a while. One note about the pattern itself, I have not gotten too terribly far. I'll show you. Will I show you? I left them in the living room. Back again. Um, Everything I own is covered in white cat hair. I have this much done. I did go ahead and fold over the waistband and just knit that together instead of waiting until the end and sewing it down. I did already put elastic in it. And the note on the pattern that I wanted to give is that the short row shaping in the back, brilliant. I Something loud happened. The shaping is very smart. I feel good about how these are going to fit. Did I personally forget that I had a smaller needle on the left and I did the short row shaping with that smaller needle? Yeah, I did do that. It looks fine. It's a half a millimeter difference, and I know that can make a big difference. But it looks fine. Am I gonna redo it? I'm a really bad knitting influence. Don't knit like me. You can live vicariously through my chaos knitting. You're welcome. Okay, the Hylia dress. We have spoken about the Hylia dress at length, and I did purchase one teeny tiny little cake of Holstgarn Coast in black um, to test it and see if I can tolerate this yarn. It's very, how do I phrase this? It's not fluffy. There are no little fibers that I think are going to go flying. I feel like it should be fine. I will swatch with this and the fingers crossed. If I end up not being able to use this for whatever reason, I think I would use. I haven't done a gauge swatch for this, but in theory, I think I might use Drops Cotton Merino, which I purchased a bunch of for something unrelated and now am in love with. It's just so good. So this is where we veer off of the yarn crawl path. I purchased yarn for a sweater. I purchased yarn to test for a sweater. It was another one of those can I tolerate this yarn all buy one skein to figure it out. I bought this Barocco Vintage DK to see if I could tolerate it. However, it's the Salty Days sweater by Kudovakika, Veronica Lindberg. I'm making an entire video about the Salty Days sweater, so I will go into so much more detail. But basically, I decided that an acrylic wool blend is not going to do it. I will still absolutely use this yarn, but I did follow a hunch and buy a sweater quantity of Drops Cotton Merino, and I have no regrets whatsoever. I really like this. So I won't go any more into the sweater that I'm working on. Again, whole separate video. But really just bringing up my betrayal of Barocco Vintage DK. Moving on. Oops, my mic died. My mic died right before I started talking about Treasure Goddess yarn, treasured yak toes in the colorway Blood Rubies. I am using this to make a pair of Smith's gloves, these little fingerless mitts for my mom. Once again, no idea how much yarn anything takes, so maybe I'll be able to squeeze a pair of socks out of this as well, like little socks. Every time I buy 100 grams of sock yarn to make socks, I end up with so much extra yarn. So, I don't know, maybe, fingers crossed. I'm prioritizing the little gloves, but this would be so nice and comfy for socks. It's sock yarn. Anyway, point being, I think this color would look really nice for the fingerless mitts. Ugh. I intend to get these done before it gets too terribly cold, but sometimes here that's like mid-January. Our coldest season, our coldest time is never like when winter starts. It's like mid-January through mid-March. So I have some time for this. This will not be a Christmas gift. Okay, so we talked about this Malabrigo Rios that I picked up at Yarn Social, using this to make a hard hat liner style hat for a friend who is an iron worker. I know he already has those, but how fun would it be to have some variety, I guess? For the winter. For the winter, having a nice hand knit wool hat under your hard hat. The pattern that I'm using for this is crazy. It has options for like every different yarn weight and every different head size. You have to actually go to a chart at the very bottom of the pattern and find your yarn weight and your head size and find your like cast on number, and there are several other options as well as far as like what type of brim. Multiple things. I haven't gotten all the way into it. I obviously haven't started, but from what I read of the pattern, there is so much information in that pattern. It's actually a little scary, but what I did read ahead seems to be like really well written and clear. There's just a lot of other information that makes it look pretty daunting. So excited to get started on this. This I obviously need to finish before it gets cold, so this will be a Christmas gift. The final project I'm making out of my yarn crawl acquisitions. Kay, get out of here. You have to leave. Kay, this is your Christmas gift. Are you gone? Okay. So this is the Bat Cape by Kate Bellondo. The pattern is for a full length. I don't know how, not like floor length, but like a respectable cape length. Kay wants a capelet, and I think I can adapt this by skipping a little bit in between each decrease row. So if I skip a little bit, make the decreases a little bit closer together, I think I can take out a chunk of the length without affecting the shape of it too much. I think. I'm doing a lot of experimenting here. The part that's killing me is that this pattern is bottom up. I am grateful to get the bottom over with first because it is extremely wide. I have never in my life cast on 460 something stitches, and oh my god, it is actually not fun at all. I'm not having fun. I don't think I'm gonna have fun until a few more decreases, and that is fine. I am fine with that. I have accepted that. I can see where it's going already. I'm only like 6 or 8 rows in. I'll show you. Well, I will show you, but it looks like this. This is my longest cable, and it's still so scrunched up. I can see the shape happening. The points are like pretty distinct, and that's great. It's very encouraging. I don't feel like I'm just knitting a million stitches for nothing. So I have faith that this is going to turn out the way that I hope. Um, the pattern is very clear, it's well written. It's just tedious. I am making this out of the Cascade Sarasota Chunky. It is a cotton and acrylic blend, which I know is not what anyone thinks of first when they think of a winter like outer garment. But for a gift made of this much fabric, I really want it to be machine washable, easy care. I don't want to hand someone a burden for hats, gloves, things like that, small things, socks. Um, I'm much more comfortable giving someone specific washing instructions for something that small. And I know Kay is not at all a stranger to hand washing like delicate, fancy clothes. She does it all the time. However, I don't want to add to that. That just feels mean. So the cotton is a little bit heavy. It is very, like, defined, the stitch definition of this yarn. There's no fuzz, you know? The acrylic lightens it up a little bit. It will still definitely be warm. And I like how it looks worked up so far. It's not what I pictured, but I do like it. I also had trouble finding chunky yarn that wasn't just like roving. And that would have been, honestly, just a huge pain in the ass, and I don't want to do that. Cotton yarn it is. Cascade really carried me through yarn crawl this year. Thanks, Cascade. If it's something I can't get at Michael's or Joann, that's fancy to me. Like my fancy $3, it's like $3.50. This is fancy to me because it came in the mail. Okay, those are my projects for the fall. Those are my new and updated fall knitting plans, despite what I said in my fall knitting plans video. I guess some of them didn't change too much, but I did want to talk about the specific patterns, how plans have progressed, how they have shifted, and that's all I have for you today. Thank you for hanging out. I will be working on vlogging my entire experience knitting the Salty Days sweater, so don't look out for that because it's going to be a while, but feel free to look forward to it, I guess. I'm filming myself knitting for the first time. It feels crazy. So I will see you next time. Bye.